Alright, so if you are a regular on the channel, you may have noticed that it's been a while since my last upload. But hey, it's not my fault. It's not like I asked for all of these delays to happen. So if you can just give me a quick second before flooding the comments with questions, let me explain. So a little after my last upload, my mic broke, like completely died on me, which in turn ended up with me just searching online for a replacement microphone. That way I'd receive it not too long after Christmas, so then, you know, I wouldn't end up wasting all of the holidays, and then I'd be able to get back, you know, to recording videos again. And yeah, well, Christmas was a few weeks ago, and you guessed it, still no mic. Like, no joke, let me just quickly draw a quick diagram just to kind of give you guys an idea of what I think ended up happening to the microphone. So as you can see on your screens right now, which by the way, I just want to point out, yes, I know the lines aren't straight and whatnot. It's difficult to draw on mouse, okay? But anyways, getting back on track to what I was originally saying, pretty much as you can see, there are two signs which are showing where you'll end up going if you choose that direction. For example, if you go right, it will take you directly to my house, whilst if you go left, it will take you to the opposite side of the universe. And obviously, since the mic hasn't arrived yet, we can assume which direction he took. Now at this point, I wasn't entirely sure what exactly I should do, but then I just ended up deciding that, listen, I've already waited so long, why not just continue waiting that little bit more? However, thanks to an idea given by one of my Discord members, I ended up making an announcement where I'd let you, the viewers, decide what exactly I should do. Whether it was option A, where I'd pretty much just change up my video style completely to a more storytelling type of video, and then yeah, from there I'd just, you know, record and play games now, and then, you know, do a voiceover later once my mic eventually arrives. You know, who knows when that's gonna be. Or option B, where I just pretty much just wait and post my usual type of content. And yeah, well, after 24 hours, it's pretty obvious which option won. So now I had to come up with some kind of video script. I'm not entirely sure how to make one since I've never done one before. And I knew that I couldn't let you guys down, especially since this was going to be like my first video in a long time. Which means if I was going to have a chance of pulling this off, then I was going to need every single skill that I've learned ever since I've begun my journey as a YouTuber. And after days and days of trial and error, this was the final result. And just like that, the intro was finally done, which means I could now move on to the actual main part of this video, the game. Now I got to be honest, it didn't take me like more than 5 seconds to choose what game I was going to be, you know, doing for my first video back. It was 100% going to be Anime Punch Simulator. Now on the surface, it probably comes off as just another anime Roblox game, and to a certain extent, I do actually agree with you guys. However, I do have to say from now, oh boy, how we are all wrong. You see, this anime game is actually special for many reasons, one of them being that the owner, or should I say one of the owners of this game, is actually someone who you might have already heard of. Yes, that's right, you've read the name correctly. It is none other than Default Plays, you know, one of the big anime simulator YouTubers on Roblox. And let's just say because of that, I know 100% that if there is anyone who can make an amazing anime simulator on Roblox, it is definitely him. But anyways, with the game chosen, all that was left to do was to press play and load in. Now once I had loaded in, I immediately headed towards the leaderboard, since I knew that by looking at them, I would get a rough idea of how strong I'd need to get to go from noob to pro. And after looking at how much energy everyone had, let's just say things weren't looking that good for me. Like, come on, 6 quadrillion energy? That's insane. But despite the large gap between my power 0 and that #1 spot, since yes, eventually I would be aiming for the top of those leaderboards, something had become very clear to me. I had a lot of catching up to do, and fast. So once I was done looking around at the rest of the leaderboards and some of the machines at spawn, I moved on to learning how to actually play and progress through the game. Now thankfully that barely took any time at all, since the game's base mechanics were similar similar to many other anime simulators that I have played in the past. Pretty much how it works is you would click to gain energy, then use that energy to damage and defeat enemies, and then once you had defeated those enemies, you would get some kind of currency reward. In this case, it was gems. And just like that, I had gotten my first kill. Now once I had gotten the basics down, I decided to have a quick run through of the map just in case there were any secret enemies or shops or whatever, but instead I ended up stumbling upon the portal to the next world, and then I noticed it costed 75k gems. And yeah, well, I only have 25 gems. But hey, even if it takes me a while to get the gems needed to unlock the next world, I'm sure that there's only like 3 or 4 worlds total since the game's just released. I mean, there's no way that there's more than 3 or 4 worlds. And there's 7 worlds. Yeah, it seemed like the longer I stayed in this game, the more I realized how tough this challenge actually was. After that, I just went back to fighting enemies. I mean, what else could I do? But that's when I remembered something so obvious that it's actually embarrassing I hadn't remembered sooner. We could get pets in this game. And in fact, I already had enough gems to roll a few times, so I thought, might as well use them here and see if I would get lucky and get anything good. Now, unfortunately, I could only spin 4 times and each of those 4 spins ended up being a common, but it didn't matter too much since after having a look at the boosts that they gave me and equipping them, I noticed that my energy had gone up from 1 energy per click to 7 per click, which obviously was a huge upgrade. And it didn't stop there. I also remembered that in this game, whatever heroes that you hatched can as well be equipped as avatars, which were basically another way to increase your energy gain. And now that my energy was going up so fast, the enemies that I had once struggled against were no longer a challenge, and I could start fighting even stronger enemies, which would give me more gems per kill and get me closer and closer to unlocking the next world. Flash forward a little bit and I now had well over 2k gems, which meant that I could now finally get back to hatching, and this time after around 5 minutes or so of hatching, I managed to get a full team of rares, which in turn ended up boosting my energy gain just enough that I could now fully focus on building it up and taking on even stronger enemies. And not too long after I had started, I had already hit my goal of 75k gems, which meant that I could now unlock the next world. Now once I had teleported through, I immediately noticed that this world had 2 brand new machines for me to check out. A shiny machine and some sort of cards machine. And yeah, since I had no clue what the second machine was, I decided to start off with the shiny machine since I was sure that I could use it right there and then. Or so I thought at least, since after trying to use it, it turns out that I needed some sort of star items as a form of fuel. And since I had absolutely no clue how to get said stars, I just decided to move on to the cards machine. Maybe I can use that instead. Nope, never mind. It seems like it also requires another currency that I have absolutely no knowledge about. At first I thought I must have missed something, since how on earth was I supposed to get stars and cards in this game? And it turns out I was right. I did miss something. You see, the second world doesn't only have 2 machines, it actually in fact has 3 machines. And after I ran towards the other side of the map, I found the answer to all my questions. The third machine, which is actually a portal, a raid portal that would take me somewhere that would give me the items that I needed. Then from there, all that was left for me to do was to start a raid. Are you kidding me? Okay, so if I wanted to get the items needed to use the shiny and cards machines, I now had to get some sort of raid tickets, which at first sounded like a huge problem, but let me take some accountability here. My confusion was my own doing. You see, the game had actually already explained how to get raid tickets, you know, by putting a huge sign in the first world that literally explained how to get them. And yeah, I missed it. Anyways, moving on. Now that I knew how to get everything, I immediately went over to the boss of the first world and I began to farm him. However, after a few minutes of farming, I noticed that it was taking quite a while between each kill, which it in turn was making the whole raid ticket grind much longer than it needed to be. Now just as I realized this, coincidentally, I had just hit enough energy to do my first rank up. So as a result, I ran back and went from Apprentice 1 to Apprentice 2, which ended up giving me a 2x multiplier. Now I knew I had already spent quite a lot of time in game, so I must have unlocked some kind of time played achievements, right? And I was right. I had unlocked 2 of them in fact, and after claiming both of them, let's just say my power was now skyrocketing. And the best part was, I wasn't even done yet. What I mean by that is, after I had went back to AFKing on the boss, I had started to get loads and loads of gems, which was perfect since I would 100% be needing them if I wanted to hatch some of the second world's pets, which I was sure would end up being really good. And only a single hatch later, I managed to get the rare, which had a 14x multiplier. I told you they were good, didn't I? Now I'm sure you must be saying, after all those upgrades, I should be strong enough to farm for those raid tickets now, right? And yes, you would be right if it weren't for the fact that I actually had already gotten some raid tickets from the gem grinds not too long ago. And with those raid tickets, I headed over to the raid portal and started my first ever raid. And after waiting a little bit for the waiting time to finish, I noticed that although I was only in the first room, the enemy's HP were already in the millions. And due to that, a little over 6 minutes later, I was only able to reach the third room. And at that point, it would take way too long to progress any further, so I ended up leaving, but I knew that once I was stronger, I definitely would be back to retake this challenge. The big question was, how do I get stronger from here? You see, I didn't manage to get any stars or cards in that raid, and as far as I could tell, that seemed to be the only way to progress from here. But then I realized maybe raids aren't the only way to get those items. If you could have a look on the left side of your screen, you will notice a little button called codes. Still can't believe I hadn't noticed it till now, but whatever, it's fine, okay? Moving on, after finding all the usable codes on the game's Discord server, I headed back over to the codes page and began using all of them. Now here's the funny part, from all those codes, I only managed to get a single duel card. But hey, at this point, one was definitely better than nothing. Not only that, but I managed to as well get some kind of invasion key, and since I hadn't found out where to use it yet, I knew that it must have been some kind of future feature, so I just left it at that. But anyways, now that I had finally gotten myself a card, I immediately went ahead and used it in the machine, which ended up giving me a blue Nishirin blade. Now unfortunately, it was the most common one you could get, however after realizing it still gave me a 2 times damage boost, I knew it was still going to be a massive help. After that, I noticed that I had gotten a large amount of gems from the raid before, so with those gems I went ahead and used them on the only thing I could think of using them on at the time, hatching, which ended up paying off a lot since I managed to get myself a legendary hero. And after hatching a bit more, ranking up and equipping my avatar and heroes, I was now on a whole other level. Like no joke, not even 5 minutes later I was able to rank up again. And thanks to that rank up, I was finally able to grind up enough gems and move on to the third world. Now unfortunately, the third world didn't have anything in it like all the other worlds did, so there wasn't really much to do except repeat what I had been doing this whole time. You know, hatching eggs, doing rank ups and taking down enemies. However, what was really good about this world was that the enemies, even the easiest ones, dropped loads of gems. And before I knew it, I had already gotten enough to unlock the fourth world. And after teleporting on through, I was greeted with another new machine, a curse machine. And yeah, well, unfortunately, not only did it require cards to roll, but it also required 10 of those cards just to get a chance at getting one of the good curses, whatever they do. However, in case you had forgotten, the reason cards were so difficult to get was because I had been too weak to grind for them in raids, but that had been quite a while ago. I mean, I had progressed through 2 whole worlds since my last raid, which meant that now probably was the best time to go back for round 2. Now I knew that things would be completely different than last time, but I I was not expecting to get not one, but 2 cards drops in a row straight away. And not only that, but I managed to get a secret star not long after, which apparently was one of the rarest drops I could have gotten, having only a 1% chance drop rate. The rest after that went pretty smoothly, and I even managed to reach room 13. And after the enemies had gotten too difficult to, progress any further, I had a look at my loot, and let's just say it kind of speaks for itself. Not bad at all. Now, I still had 4 raid tickets left to use, but I decided I'd first try my luck again at the sword and maybe, get a better one. And it seems like luck was finally on my side, because on the first roll, I had already managed to get a better sword. Unfortunately, the rest of the cards ended up being duplicates or the most common one again, but hey, let's ignore that. Instead, let's focus on the new one, which was still 2 times better than my old one, so no complaints from me. Another cool thing that I almost forgot about was that because I had reached room 10, I had actually unlocked myself an extra equip, which obviously I gladly took. And now that I was even stronger than I was just only a minute ago, I decided to head back to the raid and use the rest of my 4 tickets. 4 runs later, and this is the loot we managed to get. That's a lot of cards. Okay, I swear I've said cards way too many times in this video. But anyways, with those pieces of rectangular paper, I headed on over to the 4th world and got myself my first ever curse. As expected, I got the most common one. I mean, who's surprised at this point? But at least it gave me 2x more damage, so it didn't end up being a complete waste. Speaking of common stuff, having a look at the loot from the raids before, you will notice that I also got a bunch of stars, which meant that I could probably make my first shiny now, or so I thought. Now, what you are about to hear is probably going to make you burst out laughing, but let me give you the full context first. So before I went to make my first shiny, I had decided that it would probably be better if I hatched some new heroes first, since the best ones I had were still from the 3rd world and I was in the 4th world. I think you're getting the issue here. But anyways, as I was saying, after some time hatching, I ended up actually getting another legendary, which was perfect timing since I thought I'd be able to turn it into a shiny. So after that, I immediately headed on over to the 2nd world and tried to do just that. And yeah, well, I didn't fully understand how the shiny machine worked, so I ended up accidentally rolling it at a 2% success rate. I think you can guess what happened next. Still salty about that, by the way. But anyways, moving on. After some more failed attempts at figuring out how the shiny machine worked, since I hadn't noticed yet the number you put in the last box was actually the amount of stars you used, I eventually managed to get a shiny rare. And after having a look at its stats increase, I was just left speechless. Literally. Now, once I was done using the shiny machine, I noticed that it was starting to get pretty late, and at this point I was beginning to feel tired, so I decided that before I hopped off for the night, I'd make sure I had the best avatar equipped and also ranked up a few more times, just so then my energy wouldn't go to waste later on. And once that was done, I headed on over to the boss of the 4th world and left it running overnight. I'll see you guys in the morning. Alright, so when I had woken up this morning, I had expected some decent results. But this was overkill. I'm not joking, I literally had enough gems to buy not 1, not 2, but 3 whole worlds. Not only that, those were the last 3 worlds in the game. So yeah, overnight I had gotten maxed out when it came to world progression, but I wasn't even done yet. With those worlds unlocked came a ton of new features. For example, when I headed over to the Dragon Ball world, I was greeted with 2 new machines. Unfortunately, one of them was still being in development, but that wasn't much of an issue since the other machine made up for it. Big time. You see, by purchasing auras, I would get a huge energy multiplier in exchange for gems, something which I still had loads of even after spending so much of it not too long ago. And after just buying 4 auras, I had maxed it out, giving me a 64 energy multiplier and still having pretty much the same amount of gems. Moving on from there to the next world, once again there was another machine at spawn, and of course it costs cards. Why am I not surprised? Can't the game understand that I'm poor and I don't have any cards? But anyway, since I couldn't do anything there, all that was really left to do was check out what the final world had to offer, and let's just say It was a lot. Starting off with another 2 new machines at spawn, which thankfully didn't require cards to use them, but instead required some kind of fish and leaf tokens. Now in order to get these tokens, I had to take on a new, much harder version of the raids, the invasions. And once I hopped on through, I realized that I had run into the same problem as I had when I first did the raids. I was weak. Even with all the energy I had saved up overnight, it still wasn't enough. And almost 10 whole minutes later, and I'm still on the first room. And to make things even worse, I hadn't even gotten a single drop yet. So with a heavy heart, I just ended up leaving, since there was absolutely no way I was getting any further from that point on. Now from here, I was kind of clueless on what to do next. I mean, I could have done some hatching, but after looking at that price, yeah, that's expensive. Still went ahead and did it, which obviously gave me another common. Great. But hey, at least it had some pretty decent stats, which I guess made up for it being a common. After that, I decided to do a raid once again, which ended up unlocking me 2 more extra equips thanks to the room milestone achievements. But even with all that, I still wasn't strong enough to really do anything. Like, I couldn't even do another invasion anyways, since I needed another invasion key to do that, and after figuring out how to get more, yeah, same issue there. I guess all that was left to do was rank up a few more times and then just go back to AFK grinding, since time seemed to be the only answer left to my quest for getting stronger. And that's where I decided to leave it, the moment that I announced I had gone from noob to pro. Now obviously I wasn't going to stop there, especially since I wasn't even close to maxing out the game yet. But that wasn't what pro meant. Pro was reaching endgame, or at least for the first video. I mean, think back to what I had already accomplished. I had unlocked the final world, I had checked and interacted with almost everything in those worlds, and as well gotten to the point where the only way forward for progression was to do some AFK grinding. I mean, that's one of the core parts of a simulator, right? And with that final message, the challenge was finally over. Okay, great, I got pinged again. What is it now? Wait, hold on a second. Update 1? Okay, let's see what they added. So starting off, New World Clover Village, New World Hunter Islands, New Criminal Village World, Raid Bosses, Marks in the Slayer Village, Passives, Criticals, and a Grimoires Machine? And the list just goes on and on. There's 5 new auras and 6 new ranks. Yeah, I had just been proven completely wrong. Here I was thinking I had reached the end game and was almost done with grinding, you know, just a few more stuff to max out and whatnot. But it turns out I wasn't even close to the end in the first place. The real grind had only just begun. And just like that, my video going from noob to pro in Anime Punch Simulator was finally over. And now that it's finally over, there are quite a lot of things that I quickly want to mention. The first one being that if you've made it this far into the video, I just want to say a massive thank you. The reason being that I've spent quite a lot of time on this video, and if I had to be a little bit more specific, it would be around a week. And I'm not joking about that. I mean, if you have a look at the portal right over here, you will see that there's already a brand new world, and you know, the previous worlds which weren't in the video already have like a bunch of stuff to them. Now regarding when exactly I will get to these worlds and whatnot, it will be happening in the next video, which I can't really say when it's going to release, but probably within the next few days. However, I do know that there is going to be a huge update tomorrow, so I can't really guarantee that I'm going to be able to catch up in like a single video. But hey, at least you know what kind of the general plan of, you know, part 2 of this video is going to be like. But anyways, moving on, the second thing that I want to mention is if you have enjoyed this video and obviously you want to see more on Anime Punch Simulator, then why not consider dropping a like and sub down below, since not only does it support the channel, but it also gets me closer and closer to my goal of 5k subs before, I guess since the year has already passed, I guess we can set the next goal to be around, I guess, February. Yeah, I think that sounds about right. 5k subs ourselves by the end of February, I think we can do it. So yeah, if you want to support the channel, then all you have to do is scroll down under the video, click 2 buttons. I mean, it will only take like 3 seconds to do. And if you do all those things, I'd really appreciate it. Now, the third and final thing that I want to say is having a look over here. Obviously, we can see everyone that was involved in the creation, I guess, of this game. And I just want to say massive shout outs to them. I mean, obviously, if they didn't, you know, put all their efforts into making this game, then, you know, this video wouldn't exist. So if you are a fan of Anime Punch Simulator and, you know, like me, actively play it, then make sure you say thank you to all of them. Since up till now, I mean, every single update that they've done, they definitely have not disappointed. And yeah, if tomorrow's update is going to be like any of the other ones that they've done in the past, well, let's just say I'm really hyped for it. But anyways, I think that's enough talking from me for one day. Once again, hope you enjoyed the video. And yeah, apart from that, I think that's all I really have to say. Actually, wait, I think there is one more thing. Probably a question that a lot of you are probably asking. And that question is, what exactly is the current situation regarding my microphone? And yeah, well, regarding the microphone, all I can really say is, what do you think you've been listening to for the past 24 minutes? I'll see you all in the next one.